Alright, I took a really long break. Let's see if I can remember where I was. I think I was done with the final thinning. I just needed to put the notches and sharpen it. Put the notches in and sharpen it. Yeah. I do see that I need to thin a little bit here. Yeah, this one is thin enough to start notching, but this one has a thick spot, so let's see. Let's see what I can do. Yeah, let's see. Did that step really bad? No? Kind of? Kind of. I think that's a little bit better. Yeah. It's still kind of wonky. Sort of. It doesn't look smooth, but it's okay. Yeah. I should not have taken such a long break. I forgot how to nap this material. I'm thinking it's stone, but it has a little bit of a difference. It's very subtle. I don't know, am I making it any better or is it getting worse? I'm trying to get rid of some of that crunchiness, but it might be looking a little worse. Anyway, I'm going to leave it before I ruin it. Okay, so I got to focus on the notches. Get this area thinned down. Symmetrical from the side. Yeah, okay. It's almost symmetrical from the side. Hold on. I want to make sure it has an even taper from here down to the bottom. I want to do that now before I do the notching, because doing this after can snap off the stem. I don't have to worry too much with a thick stem, but this stem is kind of thin and the material is kind of delicate, so let's see. Yeah, pressure flakes pretty good. Yeah, okay. So let's do the notching. Nothing too difficult. I don't want something really difficult. Alright, so expanding notches always look pretty good, so I think I'll do some expanding notches. Yes, yes. Alright, it's symmetrical. Let's see, expanding notches. Of corner notching is my favorite, so let's do that. And I'll expand these notches a little bit. You know, the entry will be kind of narrow, relatively speaking. I'll expand it from here. Let's see if it works. That's not going to work. I blew out that notch, so now it's going to be wider. So that means I got to be very careful and very tiptoe through the tulips with the notching. I can still expand the notch a little bit. You'll see what I mean in a minute. Yeah, it flakes easy, but then sometimes it flakes a little bit too easy. I blew off some of that ear, but I was pushing in the middle here. But it wrapped around quite a bit. Yeah, that's not a good sign. It just means I got to be extra careful with the amount of force I'm using. I have to use minimal force. Kind of like knapping Obsidian. You have to use minimal force on the notching. Sometimes using minimal force stalls it. But this one I don't think is going to stall. Yeah, the tool grabs the edge really well. Yeah. It's a steel pressure flaker and it's grabbing the edge pretty well to peel off those flakes. It's probably grabbing the edge too well. That's how I blew out the tip of that ear. It grabbed on too well and pulled off too much of that flake. Let's see. So I can expand it a little bit from here. You'll see what I mean. I gotta be really careful that I don't push too hard. So see how the notch is expanding a little bit? Just a little bit more. A little bit more depth. Because I can. I think I can. Am I explaining enough on the notching? I'm just kind of crunching it in. There's not much to explain. I'm just firmly gripping this, making sure it doesn't move too much. I don't want to push to the sides very much at all because the flakes expand in kind of unpredictable ways. And that's really easy, so it's hard to predict exactly how much is going to be removed when I push on it. So I can't be moving too much, and I can't be pushing inward too much. It's got to be very slow progress and very delicate picking at it. I can't be scraping the edge too much or excessively, because it'll remove a lot of material that I don't want removed. Even little touches on the edges will remove material that I don't want removed. I don't want that notch initiation to be too wide. I think I'm going to try to keep it at that width. I still got to push hard enough. See how that pop out expanded a lot, and I didn't put all that much pressure on it. So I'm pushing inward and downward, mostly downward, especially right here. It's just downward. I'm using the corner of the flaker. I did not sharpen the flaker before I started. Sometimes it works better when you sharpen this, get rid of that burr. Let's see. But in this case, it probably doesn't matter because the material is so easy to knap. But it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to sharpen or get that burr off of there, because the burr causes you to apply more force to get a flake off. If it's sharpened, not completely sharp, but as long as it's more narrow on the end than it is in the middle, it concentrates the force really well. The more tapered it is, the better, but up to a point. It can't be too sharp, because then the metal will bend too much. It'll bend over and it won't pop the flake out. It'll just bend. The metal will just bend. It's not good. Got to find that happy medium between too sharp and too dull. And it's only done with the experience on the particular piece you're knapping. Just because I've sharpened it up this much doesn't mean it'll work for you. I mean, you might need to sharpen it more or less on your material. Unless you're knapping the Knap-Easy, then yeah, you could use the same setup as I'm using. Can I do really narrow notches? Yeah, but it requires a lot of focus, and there's no deviation. You can't deviate, and I got to bring out the vertical punch also. I don't have much experience with vertical punches, but those are the ones that are needed for narrow entry, because you can't really sit there and mess around in the notch. This way, horizontally, you've got to vertical punch it once you get past the initial opening of the notch. Yeah, this ear is a little bit too low, but I think it's symmetrical enough. So I'm pushing in and down when it comes to working the bottom of the notch, but as I work to the sides, I'm using more of the bottom corner of the notcher, just to pick off small flakes. I don't need to drive flakes inward to thin it down on the sides here. I gotta watch I don't hit that barb. Doesn't take much to peel off flakes with just a little brush of the tool on the tip of the ear or barb. Yeah, it's very easy to notch, actually, and not to stall it. If you're stalling this stuff, it's way too thick. it's still way too thick. Yeah, if you're having trouble with this, with stalling, that means you're starting with a preform that's way too thick. You've got to get your point a little bit thinner. It should still work if you got a 6:1. I think I had a 7:1 ratio. It should still be relatively easy to notch with a 6:1 ratio. Yeah. All right, so let's see. Let's make it more symmetrical. I can probably sharpen with the spatula tool, but to thin it and sharpen it at the same time, I need to use the rounded tip tool, so that way I can drive some more flakes. This one can drive flakes too, but it's not as good. I don't have that much of a I don't have much luck with a spatula tool driving flakes. Some people are really good at driving flakes with this kind of spatula tool. You know, push inward like this and it'll drive flakes. I don't have much success with that. It drives them in, but not as much as I would like. Not compared to what I can do with a regular rounded tip pressure flaker. Okay, so I'm ready to dull it and do a sharpening pass. I don't know if I should probably just bevel it, right? Dull it and then bevel it, that'd be the fastest. Because I gotta get busy doing other things. Where's the file? So dull it, and then do one final, or maybe, yeah, I have to do some touch-ups. I was thinking maybe one final sharpening pass, but hold on, I got to touch up the tip here and make it symmetrical from the side. It's got a lump here at the tip. All right, let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to touch up that tip. Hopefully it won't snap off on me. I gotta be very careful. Oops. Yeah, I'm not supposed to hear any crunching noises. Okay. Now, which way am I going to do the bevel? Where'd that file go? There's... It's not going to be a pronounced bevel. It's just going to, my final pass is just going to be on one side. And if I need to, I'll touch up the other side. Hopefully not too many of those step fractures like that. Let's see. Yeah, that ran pretty good, but it stopped. It is kind of steppy. Let's see. I don't know if I can fix that. Probably not. Unless I take back the width a lot right there and then dull that, create a platform and pop a flake out. I still have room to do stuff like that, but it changes the contour. It changes the outline. I'm going to try to run a flake this way to get rid of that step fracture, because the step fracture is ugly at this stage. I don't want that kind of step fracture. It's one of those newbie mistakes. No, that's too soon. Yeah. I'm not used to knapping this. I made it worse. I'm not used to pressure flaking this. I gotta use mostly downward pressure because when I do an inward pressure, it doesn't work well. Yeah, it'll pop that out easily. Hopefully. Yeah, okay. It looks a little better, but I gotta be very careful. Okay, I gotta be careful removing those pressure flakes. More careful than usual. It pressure flakes easily, but it also makes mistakes easily. I mean, it amplifies any error in the edge. That if the edge is not perfect, it'll amplify the bad flaking, so to speak. I don't want to press too hard and break it, snap it, because if I'm bridging it with the notch pad. I don't trust it. I could put a lot more pressure, but I don't trust it. It looks okay. I'm just going to leave it. I'm not going to be too persnickety about it. If it doesn't look perfect, oh well. You know, if those flakes don't look perfectly side by side or perfectly spaced, oh well. And as I get closer to the tip, the pressure is more downward than inward. So that very close to the tip, the pressure is almost perfectly downward. Now, if there's thick spots on the edge, I'm going to peel them off right here at this stage. From the other side. So I'm going to get rid of thick spots from the other side. That helps to sharpen the edge even further. I'll leave it a little bit jaggedy. Yeah, it sharpens up nicely. Okay, that's good enough. You can see the series of flakes. It's not perfect. I got a little step fracture there, and I got a bunch of chatter right there in the beginning, but the ending looks okay. Yeah. And if I want to make sure there's no dull spots, I'll just go back and pick off anything that looks kind of dull. Although that brushing does dull it also a little bit. If it's already sharp, sometimes it's sharp but it looks dull, and I end up making it unsharp by picking at it. In some spots it might look like it's dull, but it's actually sharp. Yeah, that's a nightmare, huh? Yes, it is. Okay, so it looks like I need to do a pass downward this way first before I do it pass that way. Yeah, because the edge is too far that way. Well, I don't know. Yeah, it is. Okay. Let me thin. I haven't thinned down the tip enough. There's a lot of mass on this side that I overlooked. So before I do the bevel pass, I'm going to remove mass from this side. It'll just make the edge straighter and sharper when I do the final bevel. Make sure everything stays symmetrical. If I take too much off of here, I'm going to have to take more off of there. Okay, so I'll just dull it slightly. Just barely enough to get the tool to rest properly on there. I'm having a little bit of difficulty with the pressure flaking. So what I'm going to do is grind it a little bit more than I think it needs, just so I don't remove the flake too soon. I want to have enough surface to actually put on some good pressure. Yeah, like that. I don't want flakes coming off too soon. And I don't need to push inward too much on this material. Some materials got to push in a lot to get a flake to go inward, but this one doesn't require that. This material. So on this material, you can push downward more than inward, still get some good results. Yikes. A little bit steppy there. Come on. I don't want to, see, I don't want to put it over the gap because sometimes the tip touches the other side and breaks off. So that's why I'm kind of leaning it on this side a little more. So almost vertical pressure once you get near the tip. Okay, and then touch it up a little bit where I see a lump or a spot that needs to be thinned. I can thin that from the other side. Hopefully, that didn't work. If the edge is very thin, sometimes it doesn't work when I see a fat spot. And when it doesn't work, it leaves a step fracture. That's what I mean by not working. Let's go down the edge because I see some fat spots. Let's finish going down the edge. Now, are all bevels on artifacts made this way? No. I don't think they would go back and take little bitty flakes off the other side like this. I'm doing it because I think it looks better when the edge is really thin. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, that's it. It looks like almost there, or we are there yet. Symmetry is important. For the look. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to do much else to it. Yeah. Okay. So there's a pass of flakes. That was the first pass, right? Or no? This was the first pass. And then that's the other pass on the other side. It's kind of a bevel. It doesn't have much of a twist, but you can see that this side is a little bit higher that way. This side goes a little bit lower that way. The bevel is here and there. It's more pronounced when it's thicker. When the piece is thicker, the beveling is more pronounced. Here it's just barely noticeable. Okay, so you can leave this thick. It had some room to be thick. Not much room because it had that dip in the middle, but it had some room to remain thick. So if you wanted to have a pronounced bevel, it would work. Just leave it thicker in the middle. But in this case, I don't know if I had that much room because it had that scoop or that dip in the middle of the piece. With a fatter original ingot, or whatever they call it, it would have been easier to leave it thicker. Now, some people don't want them thick. That's fine. I was just mentioning that because in order to get a good pronounced bevel, you need a thick piece. Okay, that's it. Let's clean up and then I'll upload this video and we can be done with the series. Okay. And now that I have a finished piece, I can create the thumbnail. Everything will be good. I already uploaded the other videos in the series. Okay. Yes, it's a nice material. Yeah. Would I want to use it for everything? I would probably just use it for display pieces, this material, because you can do a lot with it. I just don't explore the possibilities, but you can make nice serrations probably. Do some fancier notching. You know, I can do several notches, not just one on each side. And maybe it's pretty good for fluted points, but this one wasn't thick enough, I don't think, to do a flute on both sides. But there you go. I think that's good enough. Yeah, this is side B. Side A is cleaner. Side B, I didn't want to push my luck. It might have snapped in half if I tried to thin that down more. Although there is a little bit of room. Yeah, it gets kind of crunchy when it gets thin. Yeah, it's not a good thing. It's like any easy to knap brittle material. It does get crunchy as it gets thinner. Okay, that's fine. All right, so that's it. See if I can get the lighting better for the thumbnail. Show the flake scars. No, it's not going to do it. Kind of, sort of. All right, there you go. That's it.